Well, today I'm really happy to be joined by Olivia Foster and Krista Vidacek. Good morning.
Good morning.
Both Olivia and Krista work in career services at St. Lawrence College, and they have they work in support of career services for students, but they have kind of different areas of focus. So Olivia focuses on supporting students in terms of career services, and Krista focuses on supporting employers and working with employers. So they both have different areas that they focus on, but at the end of the day, they're both their central concern is on supporting career services in both the community, our communities, as well as for our students. So they're going to talk to me today about some of their experiences in terms of, us becoming more of an international college and supporting international students in particular with their careers. So maybe I'll start with you, Olivia, and just ask you, and then I'll move to Krista, ask you first if you could just tell us a little bit about the ways in your role that you find that you are supporting international students and our communities in terms of welcoming more international students to work in certain career areas.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a career advisor on the Kingston campus, but we do have advisors on Brockville and Cornwall as well. And we all do pretty similar roles in that, like you said, we're more student facing. So we do things like one-on-one appointments with students, whether it's, they've just come to Canada, they need a part-time job while they're in school, and they just need help figuring out what to do with their resume to make it more Canadian. Or maybe they've never made a resume before and they need to start from scratch. So we'll meet with them one-on-one to do that. And then we can also help them while they move through their education. If they have a placement in their program, we can help get their applications customized to that industry or to that specific organization. And then we can even help them once they start approaching graduation and they're ready to start looking for career level jobs. So again, we could do the resume reviews and updates. We can do mock interviews with them. So if they would like to improve their interview skills, we'll sit one-on-one with them again. If they have a specific interview they're getting ready for, we'll try and go research some questions or some topics that we think they will likely be asked in their actual interview. So they can just start thinking about what they might want to mention when they go to their real interview and just get more comfortable with the process. And then we do just like general job search. If they really, if they're not familiar with Canada, they just don't know how to go about finding a job, we can just sit down with them and kind of go through the process and just where to start and kind of what to expect as they're working through it. So, and in addition to one-on-one appointments, we do classroom presentations or separate workshops that we run through career services, which include a Working in Canada workshop. So that is really a overall summary of kind of what I just explained. So, what your resume should look like, what to expect throughout the employment or recruitment process in Canada, the interview process, things to be aware of, so what employers shouldn't be asking about, and what they probably will be asking for at some point. So really overall, just trying to get them a good understanding of what to expect when they come to Canada, or if they just got here and they're looking for a job.
Great, that's awesome. And so, Krista, your role has a different kind of perspective. Can you tell us a little bit about what about your work in particular, how you work with international students and try to assist in the community?
Yeah, so kind of right off the bat, one of the things that we're starting to try and develop a bit is some potential training for some of our community partners. So some of the employers in Kingston, Brockville, Cornwall, to offer some training on how to hire and retain international students and graduates. So just kind of going through some of maybe those concerns that there may be, that there's a lot of paperwork or things like this that might sort of inhibit that relationship between international students and grads and employers. So that's something that's just starting. So I'm really excited about that because it's something that we've kind of talked about in the department for a little while. And so we're trying to find some partners in the community who might be able to work with us on that. So that's one thing. For sure, the job fairs, we do find that they're highly attended by our international students. And as Olivia mentioned, we do the workshops beforehand to kind of help international students understand how these work and, what sorts of things employers are looking for, and so we do offer that service as well. So yeah, I think it's sort of bringing awareness on both sides, so with the students and with employers, and kind of breaking down some of those barriers, the expectations, the maybe, you know, some of the things that we don't know, kind of explaining that a little bit. And I think that also affects placement at the college too, which we don't really work with as much, but I've helped with some placement fairs. And, you know, there's a couple snags with certain kinds of organizations that there's clearance that they might need to get. And so we're trying to sort of, you know, look into that a bit more. Is there something we could do earlier on so we don't run into that snag when we're trying to get a placement for students? So yeah, I'd say that's kind of some of the main things that we're working on. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And I mean, I guess that's a great point, because it's important to recognize that the support that is provided to international students, both at our college and in our communities, is still, you know, relatively new, right? So we're still learning how best to support students. And I guess that's the last question that I'll ask you, and I'll start with Olivia. If you wanted to just, you know, provide some perspective or insights, some advice that you think you might have in terms of how you think, you know, in our community within SLC or outside of SLC in our communities, how we should approach helping international students in things like, you know, preparing for working in a brand new country with brand new norms and brand new behaviors and that kind of thing. So what kind of advice would you give, Olivia?
I think what I've learned in my role is just to take that time to sit down, listen to their story, listen to what they're struggling with, or what they don't know, and just kind of start from the beginning. A lot of them come and they have no idea what to expect here, right? So I think it's just understanding that they have different backgrounds, and again, just kind of providing not a different service than to domestic students, but just starting from the very beginning, making sure they have an understanding from, you know, how to create a resume all the way till the end of the recruitment process, and even what to expect, you know, when they are hired and they may have to do their legislative training, what their contract might look like, and different things like that. Where with the domestic students, they might have more of an understanding of that already from, you know, Canadian work experience throughout high school or volunteer experience. So really with international students, I think it's just taking that extra time to understand where they are in their experience or their knowledge of the Canadian recruitment practices, and just taking the time to really explain to them and make sure they're comfortable with what they're going to be part of or seeing moving forward in their career here.
Right. I totally get what you're saying. It's all about not making those assumptions that we might make with students who've always lived in our communities and are from Canada. What about yourself, Krista? What advice would you provide?
I would say probably just to be cautious sometimes about jobs that we're seeing online. There is definitely a rise in job scams. I think it's, you know, it's something we've seen on the news, and this is something that, you know, whether you're domestic or international, people have been targeted. But I think particularly for international students and grads, you know, like Olivia was saying, if you're not familiar with sort of, you know, it's very subtle things that I might catch in a job posting that I could see this might be a scam. That's really hard to detect if you're not, you know, in that field or you didn't grow up here. So I think that's something, you know, if students see something that they're concerned about, to bring it to us and just say, hey, can you check this over? What do you think? Is it legitimate? So I would definitely say to just kind of beware of that. But another thing might be, you know, I think as Olivia was saying, there's kind of that story that we're trying to capture. And I think having a connection with alumni could be really important, because they've kind of been through the other side. And you know, it's interesting to see if we can kind of see what their journey was like afterwards as well, because that can kind of give us a little bit of insight into how we can support them while they're here. Because sometimes they don't know what to ask. They don't even know, you know, it's just so kind of disorienting, I think, when you're entering such a new space. So I think having those kind of connections with alumni could be really important to kind of fill in that story and give us some insight into better kind of supporting them at the very beginning through to the end.
Yeah, that's a really good point, to have our international students connected with alumni to talk about the experience. And you know, so many students, international students in particular, work, you know, almost from the time that they arrive here in a part-time job. So they're building that experience, but at the same time, they need to understand that they're they're working and they're understanding how best to work in Canada, but every day is so much learning for them, and so much insight they can get from talking to others will help them as they continue on their journey. Well, thank you so much to both of you for talking with me today. It's been very insightful and enlightening to hear about your perspectives on supporting our goals to become an international college, and in particular to support our students and to support our employers and our community. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Shelley. You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.